My father-in-law shook my hand at dinner and said, "Thanks for taking care of my daughter all these years. Now it's time for a real man to step in." He gestured to her ex-boyfriend. The family clapped. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and said 3 words that made him collapse. The restaurant went quiet when Richard stood up. 20 family members turned to watch. Forks suspended mid-bite, wine glasses frozen halfway to lips, conversation dying like someone had hit a mute button on the entire private dining room of Carmine's Italian restaurant. "Marcus," Richard said, gripping my hand too hard across the table. His palm was sweaty. His smile was predatory. "You've been a decent placeholder, a safe choice while Claire figured things out. But my daughter deserves better." My wife stared at her plate. Chicken marsala, barely touched. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't meet my eyes. "I'd like to introduce everyone to Derek." Richard gestured to the man beside him. Tall, late 30s, expensive suit, the kind of smile that said he'd never heard the word no in his life. Claire's first love, the one that got away. Derek stood up, extended his hand to the table like he was accepting an award. The family started clapping, actually clapping. My mother-in-law was dabbing at her eyes with her napkin like this was some kind of heartwarming reunion scene. "Derek's back from California," Richard continued, his voice carrying that particular authority of someone who'd spent 30 years as a corporate executive and expected everyone to listen when he spoke. "Made partner at Morrison & Steele, finally ready to settle down, finally ready to give Claire the life she deserves, the life she should have had." My mother-in-law, Patricia, 58, real estate mogul, woman who measured worth in square footage and zip codes, nodded vigorously. "We always hoped they'd work it out. Some people are just meant to be together." Claire's sister Amanda raised her glass, 26 years old, Instagram influencer, never worked a real job in her life. "To second chances, to true love finding its way back." Everyone toasted, crystal glasses clinking. Champagne I'd watched Richard order, Dom Perignon, $400 a bottle, 3 bottles for the table. Everyone except me and Claire. I sat there with my hands in my lap, my own wine glass untouched, watching my marriage dissolve in front of 20 witnesses who seemed thrilled about it. "What is this?" I asked quietly. Richard sat down, smoothed his tie. "Hermes. Probably cost more than my monthly car payment." "It's an intervention, Marcus. An overdue conversation. You're a nice guy. Really. We all like you. But nice doesn't pay for private schools. Nice doesn't buy lake houses. Nice doesn't secure a future. We've been married 7 years," I said. "And you've been struggling for 7 years." Richard's voice was gentle now, pitying, like he was explaining something simple to a child. "Still renting that apartment in Queens. Still driving that 12-year-old Honda Accord. Still working that middle management position at, what is it, a tech company? Something with software? I'm a project manager." "Right, project manager." He said it like it was janitor. "Look, Marcus, we appreciate what you've done. You stepped up when Derek left. You gave Claire stability when she needed it. But now it's time for her to have more than just stability." Derek leaned forward, elbows on the table. "No offense, man, but Claire and I have history, real chemistry, the kind of connection you can't manufacture. We grew up together. We understand each other." "Then why did you break up?" I asked. I was 25 and stupid. Thought I needed to explore other options. Thought the grass might be greener. Derek shrugged. "Spent 10 years in California realizing I'd left the best thing that ever happened to me back in New York. I'm not making that mistake twice." Claire finally looked up. Her eyes were red, mascara slightly smudged. She'd been crying before dinner, before we'd even arrived. "Say something," I told her. "My parents think," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't care what they think." "What do you want?" She glanced at her father, at Derek, at her mother, at her sister, at the whole table watching like this was dinner theater they'd paid for. "I want what's best for our family," she whispered. Our family. We didn't have kids. She meant her family, the Hartfords. Old money, old values, old expectations. I stood up, grabbed my coat from the back of my chair, my North Face jacket, 5 years old, still perfectly functional, but definitely not designer. "Where are you going?" Richard demanded. "Away from people who think love has a price tag. Sit down, Marcus. We're not done here. We need to discuss the logistics, the timeline. Claire's attorney will need to—" "Yeah," I said, cutting him off. "We are done." I looked at Claire, really looked at her, at the woman I'd married 7 years ago in a small ceremony in Central Park because she'd said she didn't want anything extravagant. The woman who'd cried when I proposed with my grandmother's ring because she said it meant more than any diamond I could buy. The woman who was now sitting at a table full of people auctioning her off to her ex-boyfriend. "You coming?" I asked. She looked at Derek, at her father, at her whole family tree of expectations and inheritance and social climbing. "I need time to think," she said. "Take all the time you want." I pulled out my phone. iPhone 13, not the newest model, not the Pro Max, just the regular one. Opened my banking app, the one I checked every morning, the one Claire had never asked about, never wondered about, never cared enough to investigate. I turned the screen toward Richard. "What's this?" he asked, squinting at the numbers. "My portfolio, the one Claire knows about." His eyes scanned the screen, the balance at the top. His face went pale, then red, then white again. That's over $2 million. The table went completely silent. You could hear the kitchen staff clanking dishes 2 rooms away. 2.4 million actually, I said. As of market close today, cryptocurrency cryptocurrency, early investments. I bought Bitcoin in 2011 when it was $8, Ethereum in 2016 at $12, sold some at the peaks, held the rest, diversified into index funds and real estate investment trusts. Derek's smirk vanished, actually disappeared from his face like someone had erased it with Photoshop. The Honda Accord, I continued, paid cash, bought it off the lot for $28,000 in 2014. Could have bought a Tesla, a BMW, a Mercedes, didn't need to prove anything. It gets me from point A to point B. That's all a car needs to do. I scrolled down on my phone, showed them the real estate holdings, the rental properties, the commercial investment. The rental apartment in Queens, month-to-month lease because I've been shopping for the right property to buy. Found one last week, actually. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Lake George view. Closing on December 1st. Paid cash, no mortgage. Richard's face had gone from white to gray. Patricia was gripping her napkin so hard her knuckles were white. Amanda had her phone out, probably trying to verify what I was saying on Zillow or something. The middle management job? I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I'm Director of Engineering Operations at Cloudscale Technologies. I manage 43 people across 3 continents. My base salary is $280,000 a year, plus stock options currently valued at around $400,000, plus annual bonus that averaged $97,000 over the past 3 years. Claire's mother actually gasped, put her hand over her mouth like she was watching a horror movie. I kept it quiet because Claire asked me to. I looked at my wife. Remember? 2 years into our marriage, you said your family was judgmental, said they'd treat me differently if they knew about money, said they'd want things from us, said it was better if they just thought we were normal middle-class people struggling like everyone else. I paused. Let that sink in. Guess you were right about that. You've been lying to us? Richard sputtered. For 7 years? Pretending to be poor? No, you never asked. You assumed I wore normal clothes, drove a normal car, lived in a normal apartment. You filled in the rest with your own prejudices. I pulled a manila folder from my coat pocket, set it on the table between the champagne glasses and the bread basket. What's that? Claire asked. Her voice was shaking now. Divorce papers, filed this morning at 9:47 a.m. with the New York County Supreme Court. Case number D, 2024-78943. Her face went white, whiter than her father's. I knew about tonight. Your sister warned me last week. Amanda went pale, dropped her phone. It clattered on the table. Amanda called me. I continued. Tuesday night, November 12th at 10:23 p.m. Told me the family was planning this dinner. Said I should prepare myself. Said she felt guilty but wanted to give me a heads up. I nodded at Amanda. Thanks for that, by the way. You knew? Claire whispered. You knew what was happening and you came anyway? Your family's been planning this for over a month. There's a group chat. Claire's Future, it's called. 17 members. Everyone at this table except me. I pulled out my phone again. Showed screenshots. Messages from Patricia. Derek's finally ready. This is Claire's chance. From Richard. We need to handle Marcus carefully. He seems attached. From Amanda. Should we tell him before the dinner or just ambush him? From Claire's cousin Jennifer. Ambush is cleaner. Rip the band-aid off. Screenshots are in the folder, I said, along with the divorce filing, the financial disclosures, and a few other interesting documents. I looked at Derek. He was frozen, like a statue. She knew too, by the way. Claire, she's been texting with Derek for 6 weeks, planning this, planning her exit strategy. That's not true, Claire started. I pulled out another page. Phone records from our family plan. Verizon Wireless. Account holder, Marcus Chen. 217 calls between Claire Hartford Chen and Derek Morrison. 1,743 text messages. I'm a director of engineering operations, I said. I know how to check records. I have administrator access to our phone plan. Have had it for 7 years. Derek stood up, chair scraping. This is just a misunderstanding. Is it? I looked at him. Because Claire's been telling you she settled for me, that she wishes she could go back and choose differently, that she's been waiting for you to come back. That's all in the texts. Want me to read them aloud? I had the screenshots, printed them out, brought them in the folder, but I didn't need to show them. Claire's face told the whole story. The guilt, the shame, the realization that she'd been caught. How dare you spy on your own wife? Richard shouted, standing up now. His face was purple. How dare you violate her privacy like this? How dare you auction off your daughter like livestock? I said calmly. How dare you treat marriage like a business transaction? How dare you call me a placeholder to my face while eating at a restaurant I'm about to pay for? Richard grabbed his chest, his left arm, started breathing hard, short, rapid breaths. Dad? Claire reached for him. Dad, what's wrong? Someone call 911, Patricia said, her voice going shrill. Richard, sit down. Someone get him water. I picked up my folder, started walking toward the door. Wait, Claire called. Marcus, please. This isn't what it looks like. We can talk about this. We can work this out. I stopped at the door of the private dining room, turned back. It's exactly what it looks like, I said. You wanted a real man, someone with real money, someone who could give you the life your parents think you deserve, someone like Derek who made partner and drives a Range Rover and belongs to the right country club. I looked at the whole table, at Richard gasping, his face gray, Patricia calling for an ambulance, at Derek frozen like he'd just realized he'd stepped in something he couldn't scrape off, at Claire crying, mascara running down her face, at Amanda looking guilty, at 20 family members who'd just clapped for my replacement. Turn Turns out you had that all along, I said. You just didn't know it because you never bothered to ask, because you were too busy being ashamed of my Honda Accord and my North Face jacket and my normal apartment to actually talk to me about our finances, about our future, about anything real. I looked at Derek. He's all yours now. Hope partner salary at Morrison & Steele is enough. I looked it up. About $350,000 a year. Not bad. Almost what I make. But you'll have law school debt eating into that. Student loans, partnership buy-in. You'll be comfortable, upper middle class, maybe afford a nice house in Westchester if you're careful. We can fix this, Claire said, standing now, crying openly. I made a mistake. I'll tell them no. I'll tell Derek to leave. We can go to counseling. The papers are filed. My lawyer will contact you Monday. Jennifer Wu at Morrison Hayes. That's a different Morrison than your boyfriend, by the way. She's been my attorney for 6 years. Partner. 23 years experience in matrimony law. She's very good. You can't just leave me. I'm not leaving you. I opened the door. Behind me I could hear Richard gasping. Someone on the phone with 911. Claire sobbing. Derek saying something about calling his lawyer. The whole table erupting in chaos. I'm leaving all of you. I walked out of Carmine's into the cold November night. Got in my Honda Accord, the one Richard had mocked, the one that had 127,000 miles on it, and ran perfectly because I actually maintained it. Drove to the Marriott Marquis in Times Square where I'd booked a room for the week. Suite, king bed, room service, $400 a night, paid cash. My phone started ringing before I even got to the hotel. Claire, 37 times. Amanda, Patricia, Claire's cousin Jennifer. Numbers I didn't recognize. Probably other family members getting my contact info from Claire's phone. I ignored all of them. Checked into the hotel. Ordered a steak from room service. Watched the city lights and felt absolutely nothing. 3 days later, Jennifer Wu called me Monday morning at 9:15 a.m. Marcus, it's Jennifer. Claire's attorney contacted us. Michael Brennan from Brennan & Associates. He wants to negotiate. What's there to negotiate? He's claiming you hid assets during the marriage, that you committed financial fraud, that Claire is entitled to half of everything under New York equitable distribution law. I laughed. Actually laughed. Tell him to read the prenup. What prenup? The one Claire and I signed before we got married. Page 17, paragraph 4. All assets acquired prior to marriage remain separate property. All cryptocurrency holdings, investments, and real estate acquired with funds predating the marriage are explicitly excluded from marital property. Silence on the line. Marcus, you never told me about a prenup, because you didn't need to know until now. It's in the safe deposit box at Chase. Box 447. I'll send you the key and authorization. Did Claire read this prenup? Her attorney did. Mitchell Saunders. He's retired now, but he reviewed it line by line. Explained it to her. She signed it willingly. We have his notarized statement confirming she understood the terms. Jesus, Marcus, when did you do this? 7 years ago. Before the wedding. Her parents insisted on it, actually. They wanted to protect their future inheritance from me. Wanted to make sure if we divorced, I couldn't claim any Hartford family money. I could hear Jennifer typing. So they drafted a prenup that protected them, and accidentally protected you. Irony's a bitch. What about assets acquired during the marriage? Joint checking account has $14,000. She can have half. The apartment is a rental, no property rights. My car was bought before marriage. Her car, the BMW, was a gift from her parents, not marital property. We have no kids, no shared real estate, no shared investments. What does she get? $7,000 and whatever personal items she wants from the apartment. I'll keep the furniture since I bought it before we met. Her lawyer is going to argue you committed fraud by hiding your wealth. I didn't hide anything. I just didn't brag about it. There's no legal requirement to disclose your net worth to your spouse's family. She had full access to our joint account. She could have asked to see my personal accounts at any time. She never did. This is going to get ugly. It already is. Richard had a heart attack at the restaurant. He's in Mount Sinai. Stable condition, but they're keeping him for observation. I heard. Claire's blaming you. Of course she is. 2 weeks later, the divorce mediation was scheduled for November 28th. Conference room at Morrison Hayes. Jennifer Wu on my side of the table. Michael Brennan and Claire on the other side. Claire looked terrible. Pale. Thinner. Dark circles under her eyes. She'd been staying with her parents since the dinner. Richard was out of the hospital but on medical leave from his executive position. Doctor's orders. Reduce stress. Change diet. Exercise more. Consider early retirement. The heart attack had been mild, but it was a warning. Let's get started, Brennan said. Mid-50s, expensive suit, reputation for being a shark in divorce proceedings. My client is willing to waive her claim to the cryptocurrency holdings and premarital investments in exchange for a lump sum settlement of $750,000. Jennifer didn't even blink. No, Ms. Wu, your client hid significant wealth. My client disclosed all assets as required by New York law in the financial affidavit filed with the divorce petition. He was under no obligation to brag about his success to his wife's family. Mrs. Chen had full access to marital finances and chose not to inquire about her husband's personal accounts. He committed fraud by omission. There's no such thing in New York matrimonial law. He didn't lie. He didn't forge documents. He didn't hide accounts from his spouse. He simply didn't volunteer information that wasn't requested. Brennan leaned forward. The prenuptial agreement is invalid. It was signed under duress. months. It was signed 7 months before the wedding. Mrs. Chen had independent legal counsel. She could have walked away at any time. There was no duress. Her attorney was hired by her parents. There was inherent conflict of interest. Her attorney was licensed to practice law in New York. He reviewed the document. He explained it to her. She signed it. We have his sworn affidavit confirming she understood the terms. Judge Morrison already reviewed this last week and found the prenup valid and enforceable. Brennan's jaw tightened. He looked at Claire. She was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. "Claire," I said quietly, "why are you doing this?" She looked up. "You humiliated me. You humiliated my entire family. My father had a heart attack because of you. Your father had a heart attack because he has coronary artery disease and high blood pressure, and he got upset. I didn't cause that. His lifestyle and his genetics did. You stood there and showed everyone our private financial information. Your family was literally auctioning you off to your ex-boyfriend. You'd been planning this for weeks. You'd been texting Derek for 6 weeks. What was I supposed to do? Sit there and accept it? You could have talked to me privately. Would you have listened? Would you have chosen me over them?" I leaned forward. "Be honest, Claire. If I'd pulled you aside that night and asked you to leave with me, to tell your family no, to choose our marriage, would you have done it?" She looked at her hands. Didn't answer. Couldn't answer. That's what I thought. The divorce was finalized on January 12th. Judge Patricia Morrison, no relation to Derek, ironically, reviewed the prenup, the financial disclosures, the evidence of Claire's affair with Derek, ruled that the prenup was valid, that the marriage was irretrievably broken, that Claire was entitled to $7,000 from the joint account and her personal possessions. Nothing else. No alimony. No split of my investments. No claim to my cryptocurrency holdings or real estate. Claire's lawyer filed an appeal. It was denied. Claire moved in with Derek 2 months later. They got engaged in March. I heard about it through Amanda, who'd reached out to apologize and stayed in touch. "They're not happy," Amanda told me over coffee in May. "Derek's student loans are crushing them. His partnership buy-in was $200,000. They're living in a one-bedroom in Hoboken. Claire's working now, first job in 7 years. Paralegal, makes $45,000 a year. Good for her. Everyone should work. She realizes she fucked up. She won't say it out loud, but I can tell. She thought Derek was the golden ticket. Turns out partner at a law firm isn't the same as being a millionaire. Being a millionaire isn't the same as being happy either. Are you happy?" I thought about it. About the house I'd bought on Lake George. About the quiet mornings drinking coffee on the deck. About the life I'd built without having to pretend to be less successful than I was. About not having to hide who I was to make other people comfortable. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." 1 year later, I ran into Richard Hartford at a charity gala in Manhattan. Cancer research benefit. I donated $50,000. He was there with Patricia, both of them looking older, smaller somehow. He saw me across the room. Looked like he wanted to leave, but he walked over instead. "Marcus." "Richard." We stood there awkwardly. "I heard you donated a significant sum tonight," he said finally. "Cancer research is important. Lost my mother to it. Seemed worth supporting." "I'm sorry about your mother. I didn't know." "You never asked." He flinched. "I owe you an apology," he said. "For the dinner, for the ambush, for everything. I was wrong about you. We all were." "Yeah, you were." "Claire's miserable. In case you were wondering, I wasn't. She married Derek last month. Small ceremony. They're struggling financially. His debt is worse than we realized. They're fighting constantly about money. That's unfortunate." "Is it?" Richard looked at me. "Or is it what she deserves?" "Nobody deserves to be unhappy, Richard, but people do deserve the consequences of their choices." "I suppose that's true." He looked older than 62. The heart attack had aged him. So had watching his daughter realize she'd traded a good man for an expensive mistake. "I hope you find happiness," he said. "Real happiness. Not the kind I tried to force on Claire. I already did." I walked away. Didn't look back. 2 years later, I got remarried. Sarah, 34, architect, smart, independent. Had her own career, her own money, her own life. We met at a professional networking event. Started talking about sustainable building design. Ended up talking for 3 hours. She didn't care about my car or my clothes or my bank account. She cared about my ideas, my values, my character. We got married at City Hall. Just us and 2 witnesses. No family drama, no interventions, no expectations except the ones we set for ourselves. Bought a house together in the Catskills. Both our names on the deed. Joint finances. Equal partnership. The way it should be. I thought about Claire sometimes. About the restaurant. About Richard's face when he saw my bank account. About Derek's smirk disappearing. About 20 family members who'd clapped for my replacement. And I felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude that they'd shown me who they really were. Gratitude that I'd had the evidence to protect myself. Gratitude that I'd walked away instead of fighting for someone who'd already chosen to leave. Some people think revenge is about destruction, about making the other person suffer. But the best revenge is building a life so good that you forget why you wanted revenge in the first place.